Yeezy season continues, this time with his third installment, Kids See Ghosts with Kid Cudi. It's been pretty impressive to see that Kanye West has been sticking to all of his promises and his release dates in such a professional fashion. And it's not that I didn't expect any of them to come out when he said. I did anticipate that they would come out on the dates that they have. But it's just like, 3 albums in 3 weeks. I mean, it's pretty impressive to get that much music out in that amount of time. I've got to admit, I've got to give him praise for that, sure. However, in my opinion, I do feel like it's not been as exciting as it's been made out to be so far. I know a lot of people absolutely love Daytona and consider it their rap album of the year. I respect that. I'm just not head over heels for it, really. I just think it's fine. I think it's an okay album that focuses on one thing and does it a little bit too much and gets a bit stale for me. I like rappers to kind of switch things up. It also ends kind of abruptly too. This 7-track trend isn't really my kind of thing. I think when albums go like 20 tracks long, that's way too long. And then you've got 7 tracks and you're getting albums that finish so dead. Like, it's just like dead stop, and you kind of like, I kind of wanted to hear more. I kind of wanted more of this album because the production on Daytona was so good. Yay again was ridiculously short, an album that needed longer, despite, Daytona probably didn't need longer because the subject matter was so thin, but Yay was about such a big thing, about bipolar disorder. You can't just sum that up in 7 songs. No, that needed to be at least 10 or 12, 12, probably 12 tracks, 12, 13 in that range. Needed a lot more than what we got. And Kids See Ghosts, well, I guess this is the only one that's the perfect length, actually. I think this is the one so far that feels like what they gave us was exactly what they needed to give us on this record. Do I like it, though? No, not really. I don't really like this one, and perhaps it's no surprise to anyone because so far I've probably been one of the most negative critics on this Yeezy season phase at the moment. I'm not really too impressed with what we've been given here. Not that it's outright bad. I mean, I think anyone that's been following Kid Cudi over the years has known that he's put out a pretty terrible album, but I think based on that I thought it was going to be worse. However, I'm not really happy with the results either. I know the album as a whole isn't bad, but there are some definitely outright bad moments on this album, which I'll get into, but I do want to start talking in the positives because I don't want it to be like a full-on slander review because there are some good moments, like there are, but just generally overall I just feel like the overall sound of this album just isn't clicking. It's a pretty unique sound, I must say. That neo-psychedelic type stuff has seeped its way through a little bit. It's not quite as prominent as perhaps you may hear on some sort of Kid Cudi album, but there are a few moments that feel a little trippy, I feel a little out there and experimental, which I've got to say is pretty cool for Kanye and Cudi to do that on this. Some of the beats are pretty cool. I don't think the production overall is like stellar. It's definitely more interesting than the production on Yay, but we had amazing production on Daytona, and that was actually fantastic. The beats through and through there were just incredible, which is kind of weird because you'd think Kanye would save his best beats for his own music, but we can't work out Kanye West anymore, can we? So that's probably just the normal thing for him. I think Fire has the best beat. I think this one is stompy and just charging. It feels like it has the most momentum. I think a lot of these tracks, unfortunately, like Reborn, just don't have any momentum to them at all. So like I get bored by like the 3-minute mark or something. Whereas Fire is exactly what it says. It's fire. It's just like charging through. You got Kanye rapping over this beat and he sounds pretty good. Fourth Dimension is a track that everyone's been raving about. It flips a sample from a very old song and changes the sound of it completely, and it sounds pretty good, I must say. I don't know though. I'm not listening to this track and thinking, wow, you know, this beat is incredible. Like, I'm just listening to his track and thinking, yeah, this beat is pretty good. And for a hip hop song, that's kind of the baseline, you know? You want a beat to be pretty good. So I don't know if hip hop has been bad for beats lately, and this track just sounds better in comparison to the rest of the beats people have been hearing. But I don't know, man. I just think this is just the standard. Like, this is what you should get with a hip hop beat. It should be decent, and I think that's all this is. I feel like this beat has the J. Cole effect in the sense that everyone thinks J. Cole is a good rapper because all the other rappers around him are just terrible, and everyone isn't focusing on bars anymore. And this beat is just the equivalent to that. Like, this beat must be so good in comparison to like all the trap beats because we're oversaturated with trap that we're bored with that sound now. So you hear a beat like this and everyone's like, whoa. And yeah, I don't know, I just think it's fine. Perhaps it doesn't help that Kid Cudi's on this track and he just slows the momentum down. That is one of the biggest issues of this album. Like, Kid Cudi singing over a lot of these beats ruins the beats generally. Even when the beat isn't that great, he's just wailing and moaning in the most annoying way. And that probably is the issue here. Free is probably the worst beat here. This is just arena rock, man. Like, if you're a hip hop head and you don't like rock music but yet you appreciate this beat, then you're a hypocrite. Like, you are. Like, you can't say that you like this beat but then be like, oh, I don't like rock music, or rock music's getting boring, because this is just a rock sound. Like, what? It's just so generic in its sound as well. Like, it's, oh man, like how the beat comes in and out and it's like down, 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 down. It's like fucking Nickelback are ready to open up their concert. Cudi Montage has a kind of cool beat, but again, it has a pretty standard sound. I think it's got that like down, 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 like that kind of like spaghetti western feel to it, which again, I don't really think would have sounded that great on its own in any other context, but perhaps on this album it could be considered quite creative, because, you know, it's not like any other track on this album, to be honest. But yeah, as for the songs on this album, I mean, oof, boy, I don't get much at all. I think Pusha T's verse on the first track is pretty cool. I like that he was here, kind of like tying up the whole Yeezy season thing, how he started it off with Daytona, now he's here on Kids See Ghosts. I kind of like that. But yeah, as for the rest of the track, didn't really think too much of it apart from Kanye West screaming. That bit was fucking wild, man. Like, when that came on, I was like, is this serious? Like, what is this? It really amped up the track so much. Even if it was like, what? Like, it was kind of like Poop Diddy Scoop, but like amped up to like just insane Yeezus level amounts of just weirdness. It was pretty crazy that part. I must say I liked it just for the strangeness of it all. I didn't really like the whole feel the love thing going on. A lot of Kid Cudi's wails on this album do ruin everything. Just everything, really. Not even the album, just everything, man. I mean, I've already mentioned how the beat on Free is pretty bad, but oh my lord, the singing here. I'm free. Oh, Jesus, that is awful. And it's Kanye and Cudi doing this too, so I can't even blame this on Cudi for the singing at this point, even though I would if it was Cudi singing, because I'd be like, oh, well, it's just because how he sounds bad at singing. But here, it's Kanye as well, and it's just so stupid. Like, why? Why would you do that? I feel like what's going to happen here is that they're going to get praised for their, like, you know, talks on mental health and mental illness. And that's fine. You know, talking about it's really important, and I think that bringing it up in music is very important too. But in the way they do it, man, on this track, it's an absolute slap in the face to people that actually feel awful thoughts every day and actually go through terrible mental disorders every day. I mean, I don't feel pain anymore. I feel free. Like, what the fuck is that? If you're going to talk about something, you can't just do it in a way that doesn't even sound like you're taking it seriously. Like, am I supposed to believe that either of you have mental problems when you make a track like this? I literally did just drop a video as well about do we romanticize sad music. And this is a prime example, man, because a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, they're doing so good here at talking about their problems, but like they're talking about their problems in the most basic way. Like that shouldn't be praised. It just comes across as so fake deep. Like we can't chastise XXX Tentacion and artists like that in the emo trap world, but then praise Kanye for a terrible song like this. Now I do want to talk about the track Reborn, because this one's getting a lot of praise and I'm seeing a lot of people call it the best song, and boy does this one drag. I mean, I've got to praise Kid Cudi here. I think his attitude towards what he's going through is really good here. Keep moving forward. I feel reborn. Like I'm overcoming what I was once, struggling with. But as a song, I'm not interested in it, man. It really goes on way too long. He repeats the same refrain so many times. Like, oh my lord, he really goes off on saying the same thing over and over again. And yeah, by the end, I'm ready to turn it off. Like, I feel like this track's way too long. Really doesn't help that Kid Cudi as a vocalist isn't particularly very good either. So perhaps if this was someone else singing, it may have worked. But, Kid Cudi's voice really gets straining after a while. And yeah, I'm just not really feeling it. Kids See Ghosts is a bit of an odd one for me. I don't know how I feel about this track, honestly. I think the themes don't really link together very well. The whole Kids See Ghosts sometimes. I don't really know what they're trying to go for here. I mean, if you're going to relate mental health to kids seeing ghosts, it's a bit of a simple, metaphor for me, I think. And then we got Kanye's verse that doesn't really talk about any of that. Cudi does well to link it, but like we get to Kanye, he's talking about his fame. And, I think we've already heard this from Kanye, haven't we? Didn't he talk about this on Ye? Listening to him do it again, I don't know, I just don't really have that much interest in it. I think it's a bit of a strange one, because Kanye's contributions on this album don't really feel as thematic as when Cudi's singing, which then kind of leaves me with this weird, like, well, I don't really like Cudi when he sings, but then when Kanye comes on, he's not really keeping the topics as thematic as they're supposed to be. So it's like I'm conflicted. I'm like, I don't like Cudi, I don't really like Kanye on here, so what am I even listening for? And that's not to say they're always terrible. I think they both do a good job on Fourth Dimension ish. I guess they're not really pulling the song along very well. As I've already said, I think the momentum of the track's a bit dire for what it should be, but at least they're kind of like staying on topic and rapping pretty well and singing pretty decently. Same with Fire. I think this is a pretty good song too overall. Kid Cudi montage. I mean, yeah, Kid Cudi has some really powerful lines, I think, on his verse. But yeah, the Stay Strong refrain that comes from, I think, Mr. Hudson and Kanye isn't particularly my kind of thing. I think it sounds a little too 808s and heartbreaky. That kind of like auto-tune-ish singing that doesn't really sound very nice. Like, it's a little bit off on my ears, to be honest. I just don't know. Kanye has a pretty good verse on this track too. One of his better verses, I would say. He makes a good link to like gang violence on this one as well. Yeah, I think his verse is really strong here. One of his strongest on the album, I would say. But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm just not really feeling it, man. I just don't really see what there is to love here. There are some good moments, but there are some pretty terrible moments too, especially with the singing and the hooks. Some really, really bad moments, which Ye didn't have. There weren't really terrible moments on Ye, there just wasn't really much that grabbed me on Ye. That was the difference. I feel like Kids See Ghosts is meant to be more emotionally powerful than it is, to be honest, and what we've ended up getting, I just don't think resonates very well at all. I think this album sets out to be that emotional, but I don't think, whoa, sorry for that, I don't think it really gets there at all, actually. Only a few moments with Kid Cudi's lyrics, but it ends up being washed away by a hook that isn't too good, or the production isn't generally that satisfying to me, so I don't really find myself being locked in. Yeah, for sure, some of the production's creative, the creativity is pretty strong here, but doesn't always amount to greatness. You know what I mean? Like some of these beats are being praised, but like, you know, Kanye's done better over the years. I feel like sometimes we just kind of forget that artists have done so much better in the past. So when you hear something that's not as good, then you're not going to be that head over heels for it. Like it was literally 2 weeks ago, that Kanye West laid out some of the best production he's ever made in like 10 to 15 years. And now we're calling this Kids See Ghosts album like a really good one because of the production here. No, I just don't buy it, man. This is nowhere near as good as some of the stuff that we had on Daytona. And once again, it's an album that's got Kanye's name on it, so of course it's going to get all the hype and praise. When in reality, there are so many more emotionally driven hip hop albums that come out that are way more inspiring than this. You know, Open Mike Eagle's last album, Saba's Care For Me, that came out this year, that didn't get anywhere near as much attention. Obviously he's not as popular as Kanye, but just think if people had heard that, they wouldn't really call what we've got here that great. Kid Cudi gets away with all his wailing and moaning once again. Like, dude, there are better singers out there that could do this so much better. Like, oh, yeah, I'm just not getting it, man. Kids See Ghosts is not an album I think will stick around in the long run, honestly. I think by the end of the year, not many people will be talking about this in the same way they're talking about it now. We'll have to see, though. I just don't really feel like it's gonna stand the test of time at all. And based on that, I think I'm gonna give this a D. I mean, it's on that same sort of level as Ye. It's like an average 5 out of 10 type of album. It just doesn't really pop or stand out in any particular way. And I would call Kids See Ghosts slightly worse than Ye because of the bad singing, the occasional bad hooks, the only sometimes good production that doesn't really stick out because of the bad singing that's covering the production. Yeah, this one really isn't that special to me. So yeah, D. Let me know your thoughts. Sorry I'm harsh, but that's kind of just how it is, man. Yeezy season hasn't really gripped me that well so far. I mean, Daytona was the best we got, and I didn't love that one. So I guess we'll have to see if that Nas album's going to be any good, or anything else that he puts out between now and whenever. But yeah, not really feeling this one. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you like this review. Make sure you comment and tell me things. Tell me I'm wrong and all that kind of stuff. And have a good day. I feel free.